What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, joined by Justis Mosqueda from ACME Packing Company. Justis, we are deep in the thick of the summer, but that doesn't mean there ain't Packers topics, stuff to talk about. But first of all, how you doing? How's your off season going?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we're in the dry season content-wise.
Right.
I learned yesterday that Eric Dickerson got traded to the Packers, and I almost wrote that up. I still might write that up later today.
Why not, right?
Um, yeah, the precursor to the Favre trade was building that
Amazing.
pipeline
Amazing.
from the Falcons. Two
Amazing.
teams that I didn't know traded for Eric Dickerson.
No,
Yeah.
you learn something new every day, especially in these dog days of summer. But with summer on the mind and training camp right around the corner, I did want to talk to you about a piece you wrote over at Acme Packing Company regarding the undrafted free agent class. And I do think this is interesting. And I know some folks may roll their eyes or think, "Oh, just get me to the season, whatever." But man, you look at the Packers program, right? How they operate when it comes to team building and opportunities that undrafted guys might have. And I know in the agent community, the Packers are, known for
Mhm.
this as far as undrafted guys signing in Green Bay and having real opportunities to make the roster. And I know how many years has it been now that they've had an undrafted player make the opening weekend roster? I know it's extensive, though. I do think we probably on the outside are fudging it a little bit with the Narvison edition last year.
Yeah, definitely with the Narvison thing. It's been since Ted took over in 2005. There's been an undrafted free agent rookie who's made the team every single year since then. And a couple years, there were several, right? Like 2023. I know we said we just fudged it with the Narvison thing because he was picked up on waivers and stuff like
Right.
that. But 2023, it was Emmanuel Wilson, Malik Heath, and Brenton Cox, all three of them, right? And all three of them are still on the team as of now. So.
Yeah. Which is impressive. I mean, you look at, I think they have 12 guys with the Allergsma edition, the signing, who clearly didn't sign immediately after the draft, but is an undrafted free agent, essentially. So with this group of 12, I know you wrote about where the opportunities might lie. And I mostly agree with your summation that if you are one of these 12, the guys kind of working on the defensive side of the ball most likely have a better chance or a better opportunity in front of them. What can you explain why you think that?
Uh, the easiest way to do it is they're not losing these skill players, right?
Right.
Um, and they're only drafting more. And then on the offensive line,
Right.
they've been so aggressive at adding those guys. I mean, they're trying to find ways to get Jordan Morgan, last year's first round pick, on the field. Anthony Belton, this year's second round pick, on the field. They just paid Aaron Banks, right? They got in Telfort and Travis Glover in the playoff game last year, but now they seem to really like Jacob Monk. If
Right.
any of these signs point to anything. So once you start like, oh, okay, those are like, we just named 5 backups, right?
Yep.
You usually keep like 4. You can't keep up, 5. The Packers, I think, have carried up to 11. I
They've
think.
gone, yeah,
Um,
they've gone to 11 twice in the last, I want to say 5 or 6 years.
right, and that's not even counting like the South Florida guy that they liked last year, Donovan
Donovan
Jennings.
Jennings. Yeah.
Yeah, who they gave a decent amount of money to sign with the team. He was kind of banged up
He was hurt
in
all
the
summer.
summer,
Yeah.
and then he just kind of rolled out in the practice squad and stuff like that. But maybe he has more of an opportunity this year, right? So I think it's just going to be tough for any offensive player to stay on this team, especially the way the Packers have been able to like retain talent and just keep guys on locked in 4-year contracts. I mean, we know they've spent all these draft picks over the last probably 3 years, right?
Mm.
Um, there's just not a ton of opportunities. I think the biggest opportunities, in my opinion, come from positions where depth is not a strength, and I would say that is the nose tackle position because I still don't know who the backup nose tackle is going to be.
Right.
I think it's going to be one of the Georgia kids, right? Whether it's Britton, the late round draft pick, or Stackhouse, the UDFA who they signed. They were both. If you look at draft industrial complex, right? They
Yes,
were they
of
were
course.
ranked pretty neck and neck.
Similarly, right?
People kind of had
Yes.
him, yeah. People for the most part had them back and forth. I don't think there was a consensus better one of the two Georgia
Mhm.
defensive tackles. Um, I think that makes a whole lot more sense than Colby Wooden, who was at the combine at 273 pounds, bulking up and being the backup nose tackle, which is what they're doing in
Which apparently
uh,
is at least part of the way what they did this offseason, right? From the
yeah,
reports that
I
we got out of
mean,
camps.
I don't think they just want to give the job to one of these rookies. That's not really how the Packers operate.
Right.
But as we get closer to game day, and game that matters, I think they might
Yes,
change the tune a little bit.
possibly, right.
The other thing too is the cornerback position. Um, I just really think it's wide open after the first three, and they're going to have to keep five. So, I don't like any of these guys can make or miss the team.
Yep.
I don't think that there's any locked in players after Keyshawn Nixon, Nate Hobbs, and Carrington Valentine. So they can withstand one injury. Once it comes to two injuries, it's like, dude, we have no idea what is coming up with that bench. So I think Tyron Herring, kid out of Delaware,
Yep.
and then Jonathan Baldwin, who mostly played in the slot, but I guess he's being worked out at safety. Um,
Yeah. He's
he's another
interesting to me.
option.
Baldwin's interesting to me. I do think, like, I've looked at a little bit of tape on each of these kind of undrafted guys. I don't do deep dives because God knows you do all that work, Justice, and then they just get cut and you've just wasted a bunch of time. But you do want to take a preliminary look. And I will say, Baldwin, to me, you mentioned, yes, he's played a lot in the slot, but I think his physicality is something that maybe he gives himself an opportunity on teams, right? Because ultimately,
Mhm.
that's how these guys are going to have to make the squad. Like, they're not
Yeah.
there just to play corner. There's no freaking way. So, yeah, I think of the guys that I've looked at, Baldwin to me is, and you mentioned like trying him at safety, like the more you can do, right? The versatility that they always talk about, that competition. But ultimately, I think his physicality should help him at least turn a head or two when it comes to working on teams, being physical, and hopefully like shining in that part of the game during these preseason games. Cause that's the other thing. Even all the work they do, the padded stuff, some of the, thud stuff that they do in camp, it's still not live action. So you don't really
Yeah,
get a
for
good
sure.
look at these guys in a live setting until you get to these preseason games. And these are the types of guys that are going to be playing the majority of the snaps. So I think though that's where that window opens up, hopefully for one or two of these guys.
Yeah, and you only get like 10 padded practices during the season, and I don't think people
Crazy, right?
realize that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of your evaluation is coming through the summer until you're actually thrown into a game.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the special teams thing is huge. They lost. I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't go after Robert Rochelle a little bit
I was
once he
too.
became
Once he got
available again.
out of the Chiefs, yeah. He's with
Yeah,
Dallas now,
and
right? He signed with the Cowboys, I think.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, so both Robert Rochelle and Corey Ballantyne played more special team snaps last year than Brandon McManus, the kicker, right? For perspective. So
Right.
we think of, hey, if you're playing this much special teams, that affords you a roster spot. You lost two cornerbacks that do that, right? And
Hmm.
you know, uh, outside of Nixon contributing as a return man, I don't think that you're going to see much of Valentine,
No,
Hobbs,
no chance.
Nixon on special teams. So I do think those last two corner spots, at least one will go to a heavy special teams contributor, if not both. That's why I kind of think one of the more interesting guys on this roster, as dumb as this sounds, is Gregory Jr., who is a guy that they've had their eye on for a long time. They brought him in on a pre-draft visit. He ended up getting picked in the sixth round, I think, by the Jaguars.
Yep.
Um, he's played something like 150 snaps on both defense and special teams. Um, good athlete, all those type of things. I think he could for sure be like the Isaac Rochelle, special teams only type of guy if they wanted him to. If not the Ballantyne, like break in case of emergency
I was just going to say,
cornerback.
and certainly judging by how they've kind of thrown him into the fire during OTAs and mini camps with the ones at time, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously you can't read too much into it, but the fact that they're throwing him right in the mix. I mean, I think this was like a week after he got signed. He's out there with the ones in certain capacities. Like, that's obviously about, okay, can he hang? Can he pick up the system? Can we trust this guy? If we do get into a situation where we have a couple of injuries and now we're going to have to put him out there, I'm with you. You talk about a guy who at least has NFL experience, right? And a guy
Mm-hmm.
who certainly can help you on teams. And I think he's, done enough of that at the league level that where you can feel pretty confident that he's going to help you there. But it's interesting because you look at the undrafted guys and there's such unknowns for us on the outside, but I'd be fascinated to get some truth serum into the coaching staff, and talk about what they saw on tape even this spring. Because you got to think, even at this kind of very early stage, they've got a favorite or two. They've got a guy that they saw, turn their head on a certain practice or really kind of put it together in the meeting rooms, etc. That's the stuff that, doesn't make headlines. You don't really think about it as a fan, but like you're already, if you're one of these undrafted players, hoping that you've at least stood out once or twice in the minds of your coaching staff, because hopefully that carries through the summer. And when you get back, when you're putting the pads on, you're getting those initial opportunities, because that's what it's all about, is actually having opportunity there at Radnitschke Field, because you can be height, weight, all the athletic traits, etc. But if you're not out on the field and you're not getting those ops, like, good luck. There's no chance.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things with the preseason too. I don't think, I mean, there's no reason for people to care about this, but like practice structure is such an important thing.
Yes.
And the way LaFleur kind of treats it, like he wants to get his starters those reps in practice, and especially once we get through like training camp and stuff like that, where we're having these joint practices. I mean, you've been down there for it.
Oh yeah.
For the most part, it's ones and twos, right?
Yes.
Threes versus threes
Those
isn't
are
really a thing that's happening.
exponentially more important for LaFleur and the staff for the ones than any of the preseason games, obviously, but even their
Yeah,
practices. Like the
yeah.
joint practices are where it's at. Definitely.
Yeah, which is why those opportunities in those preseason games, a lot of times, like you can show a lot more there than in a week of practice, especially considering that it's padded full live tackle. I mean, do you remember when Emmanuel Wilson really started going off in the
Yeah,
preseason?
most
LaFleur was
certainly
like,
do.
"Oh, I didn't know that this guy had this in
I was
him."
not
And
familiar with your game.
yeah,
Right.
running back is always super hard to evaluate in
In the
non-padded
practice setting.
practices and stuff
So
too. I
true.
mean,
Well, and that's I was gonna
everyone's running for 70, so.
Yeah, right. I was going to bring that up because we talked early on this video about, the opportunities on the defensive side. I do think if there is one spot where you can make at least a name for yourself and maybe get on the practice squad or even crack the roster as a reserve, is at running back. I know I keep reading the crowded running back room. I'm like, look, man, Wilson's a really serviceable back, right? And Brooks did a lot of really good stuff. But if, say, like Amar Johnson comes in there and lights it up and shows he's physical enough, can definitely catch the football, and is able to handle pass pro, which is obviously the number one thing you're watching for, like, there's nothing to say that they wouldn't keep him around if he shows that promise and shows that he belongs in the NFL. At running back, especially, like, it's so fungible across the league. I mean, they got Chris Brooks off the Dolphins practice
Mhm.
squad. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody comes in, especially at that, if there's a spot, if there's a position where an undrafted guy can make that jump and show right away, yeah, I belong here, it's at running back in the NFL. That's to my eyes anyway.
Yeah, and you're gonna get touches, right? Which is one
Yes.
of the nice things. I mean, it's not like a
You're
receiver
going to get
position
work.
or something like
Right.
that
Yes.
where, I have to worry about the offensive line blocking for the quarterback.
Yep.
Hope that there's not some bad matchup and a third round pass rusher is still out there against third string offensive line. You got
Right.
to rely on a third string quarterback to get me the
Give me
ball.
the ball. Right.
And we're not scheming
Yep.
for anything,
Nope.
right? We're not game planning. We're not doing any of that. So, the shots aren't going to be super aggressive or anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, running back's just an easier position, I think, to kind of make a splash in the summer. I just think that's naturally how it works in the preseason.
Yeah. I think we've got such a long way to go, and I can't wait for the pads to come on, because that's what instantly I'm drawn to as far as the rookie backs in particular. Like, how do you handle pass pro? Do you, like, not just are you physically able to do it, because there's plenty of drill work in that regard, but just
Mhm.
during the team stuff, are you in the right spot? Are you picking up what they're teaching you regarding like, the protection schemes and things of that nature. But if you come in and show that you can do it and you're productive, man, you've got you at least got a shot. You're going to get ops. Like,
Yeah,
that's the big part.
for sure. I think one other guy I want to mention too here is Jamin Johnson, the linebacker from Kentucky, who transferred from Georgia. Um, him and Stackhouse were probably the highest graded undrafted free agents that the team signed. What's going to be interesting is the Packers have already considered Colin Oliver, a linebacker defensive end hybrid, right?
Right.
So are they going to keep 6 linebackers and Oliver, or are they going to keep 5 and Oliver? Right?
Right.
You want to go 6.5 or 5.5? Last year they kept 5.
Right.
They kept 5, and after the season was like, yeah, we were kind of surprised how much base that Halfley played. We would like to get a higher number there, which I don't know why he was surprised. I mean, they're matching personnel. It's not up to you, but so if we're going 5.5, right? Oliver is the half.
Yep.
We got Quay, we got Edgerrin Cooper, we got McDuffie. I don't think Hopper's going to get cut, so we're at 4 already.
That's 4,
right? So we got one roster spot at linebacker that we can argue about. Christian Welch has already proven himself. I think at very least special teams. I thought he had a really good summer.
He should never have been cut last year, and bringing him back this year tells you all you need to know as far as them kind of admitting that, right? Like
right.
he should have 100% made the squad last year. But it's funny you mentioned him, and it's like when he got signed, I thought, okay, here we go. He's back in the fold. To your point, special teams demon. But now the Isaiah Simmons thing is happening.
Yep, and they seem to be fine throwing Isaiah Simmons out there too. Right? So we're having Isaiah Simmons, Jamin Johnson, and Christian Welch all fighting for basically what amounts to one roster spot right now.
Right.
So you look at any of these post draft top free agent lists, Jamin Johnson is probably number 1 for the Packers. But in terms of the actual opportunity, like I understand that the talent's there. In terms of the actual opportunity, I don't know how much opportunity he's actually going to get. So that's why he's a little bit further on the back burner behind Mr. Stackhouse, the nose tackle, and then the cornerbacks for me.
Absolutely love it. Justis, can't thank you enough for the time, man. If you want to hear or read more about Justis's thinking here regarding the undrafted free agent class, be sure to check out his piece over there at Acme Packing Company. There's a link in the description of this video to do so. Justis, thanks so much for the time, man.
Yes, sir. If anyone has any tips for college football 26, hit me up.
Hit him up.
I need it.